Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing my February wrap up. So we're going to be going through every book I read in February and I'm going to tell you what I thought about all of them. I'm going to go in chronological order. So the first book I read in February was Loathe to Love You by Ali Hazelwood. I'd actually read, if you don't know, this is a bind up of 3 STEM novellas by Ali Hazelwood. I'm out of breath and all I've done is speak. I'd already read the first one in I think like August of last year. So I had 2 more left to read that I obviously read in February. They are all kind of one of the same. I'm not saying this is groundbreaking literature and that these are some really nice little intricate novellas. They are all very similar, but I just loved them. I gave them all 4 stars. They were just fun, you know, they're just vibes. Are they the most developed romances ever? Obviously not, because they're novellas, but I think Ali Hazelwood actually did a really good job of making these romances convincing. I can't really remember the first one that much because I read it so long ago, but the 2 that I read this month, they both had kind of a now and then timeline. So they'd met previously and then we were following them now, so that made the romances a bit more convincing because obviously they had a bit of a past. Ali Hazelwood wasn't trying to make out that these characters had met and fell in love within the space of like 2 days. Granted, it was only a few weeks for one of them and, to be fair, a few months for the other one. So I'm not saying they had years and years again of like intricate history, but she still did a good job of convincing me anyway that these romances are legit and that these characters actually developed genuine feelings for each other, even though the novella is very short, because this is the size of the whole bind up and this is 3 novellas, so they are quite short. But yeah, I think she did a really good job. The next book I read in February was House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J Maas. This is rather a large book. This is the 3rd book in the Crescent City series, so obviously I can't talk too much about what this book is actually about because it will spoil it. But the Crescent City series is an urban fantasy by Sarah J Maas. It's set in more modern times than her other series are. They have like phones and internet and everything like that, so it is a bit jarring at first. But I think you do get used to it. I definitely got used to it when I got into the first book, particularly going into the second one. So by the time I got here, I was already kind of comfortable in the world and knowing that it's just a little bit different than her other series. But I really loved this. I gave it 4.25 stars. Yes, it is long and a lot happens. It's one of those books where you do kind of have to be switched on when you're reading it because there's just so much going on. But I really enjoyed it. I'm usually not one to read such complicated books. I read for enjoyment. But I think this is still very enjoyable, even though there's a lot going on and there's a lot of things to follow. It's just written in an enjoyable way. There's quite a lot of banter and stuff in these books. The characters have really nice relationships with each other, friendships and romantic relationships. So whilst there's a lot going on, you also have a lot to root for, which I think makes it easier to kind of push yourself through such a big book. So yeah, really enjoyed this one. The next one, again, was the last book in a series, and it is Defiant by Brandon Sanderson. This is the last book in the Skyward series. It's a sci-fi series about a girl called Spencer. She's, I believe, 16 at the beginning of the first book, and it spans over maybe around a year or so, maybe more, I don't know, throughout the whole series. Basically, in the first book, she wants to be a pilot for the kind of defence flight of her world. They live on a planet called, is it Detritus? Is that how you pronounce it? I can never remember because I said it different in my head, and then I listened to the audiobook for the novellas and they said it different. I think it's Detritus, but that could be wrong. Anyway, they live on this planet and she wants to be a pilot, and the whole series follows her journey of whether or not that is possible and what happens to her afterwards. And it very much does diverge from there, though. It's not all about her becoming a pilot or not becoming a pilot. After the first book, there's so much that goes on in this world. There's like wars and politics and everything that goes on. It's a really good series. If you want to get into sci-fi but you find it a bit intimidating, I would absolutely recommend this series. It is YA, so there's a couple of things, like instead of swearing they say the word scud, which can get a little bit like, come on. But overall, I wouldn't say it's written too young at all. It's accessible sci-fi, but it's still complex, still a lot to root for. It's still a really engaging series. Next one is Air of Fire by Sarah J Maas, the 3rd book in the Throne of Glass series. I gave this, did I give it 3 stars? I really didn't enjoy this book very much at all. I'm just going to say it, I don't like Rowan. I hope there is some redeemingness. I think he was tried to be redeemed in this book. I didn't buy it. So I'm so sorry if you like Rowan. At this point I don't. Again, I'm hoping that further on in this series I do. But yeah, I'm just not loving him at the minute. Sorry. I know people love him so much. I'm definitely going to carry on with the series because I am intrigued and I think it is going to get better. But yeah, I didn't love this one at all. I very much had to push myself through and finish it and just think about getting to the later books, which I hate doing. I don't think you should have to do that in a series, but yeah, I got through it. And let's hope that Queen of Shadows is better than this one was. The next book I read, oh, I could cry just thinking about this. I won't talk about this one too much because I did a whole dedicated reading vlog. I did for Crescent City as well, actually. I did a spoiler vlog for Crescent City if you've read it and you're interested. And I did a non-spoiler with a spoiler section at the end for this book, Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. Just obsessed. I'll say now, even if you're going to go watch that vlog, I'll tell you now, this is a 5-star. I'm obsessed with this. If you want to see the emotional journey I went on, you'd obviously go and watch that vlog. But I'm obsessed with this book. It was so good. I loved it so, so much. It was everything I could have wanted out of Magnolia and BJ's story. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil anything here at all, but I'm so happy with the way things panned out. I'm actually excited for the next Daisy Hates books, and I'm not a Daisy Hates girly. I didn't love the Daisy Hates books, but I'm actually excited for them now, just to get kind of crumbs of Magnolia and BJ. And there's definitely some intriguing things in here about the Daisy Hates characters. So I am actually excited to go back into Daisy Hates when that one comes out. I don't even think Jessa Hastings has started writing it yet, so it's going to be a long time. But I am excited to actually read those now. Not just for the crumbs of Magnolia and BJ, but actually for the plot of Daisy Hates as well. So yeah, 5 stars. Loved this. Absolutely obsessed. The next book I read was Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha. Is that pronounced Nan? I'm sorry, I should have looked that up before. I read this one as part of a reading vlog that's gone up, I think just before this video, where I speed ran my February TBR. This is about a girl who gets taken to be a paper girl for the king, which basically means she has to go and sleep with the king. She doesn't want to. A lot of the paper girls don't want to. It's very uncomfortable. There's a lot of sexual abuse talked about and happens on page in this book, so if that is a trigger for you, I would probably avoid this. I gave this 3 stars in the end. I was really enjoying it at the beginning. It had really good kind of kingdom vibes, really intriguing, and it just fell a bit flat for me. I found the pacing quite weird. There was something that happened at the end that I think should have been introduced a lot earlier. I don't think it should have happened earlier, but I think that plot line should have been introduced a lot earlier in the book. The pacing, yeah, was just kind of a bit odd for me. I probably will carry on with this series at some point because the ending, annoyingly, has now got me a bit hooked and I do want to know what happens. But I ended up giving this 3 stars in the end. It was fine, but yeah, it just kind of fell a bit flat for me, unfortunately. The next book I read was The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. This is a book that I've owned for a very long time, and I've never watched the film. Obviously before this I'd never read the book. I put it off for a long time because I know it's sad, and I ended up reading, I listened to the first 11 minutes of the audiobook and I thought, I can't do this, like I'm actually not going to be able to read this book because it's so sad. And then I sat and listened to it all in one go and gave it 4.5 stars. So books like this are the reason why I like to give every book I buy a try before I DNF or get rid of it, because I ended up absolutely loving this, and now I want to read all the other John Green books that I randomly have bought over the years and never read, because I just love the way this was written. I think it encapsulated just teenagehood quite well. To say that John Green is like a grown man writing as a young girl, I think he actually did quite a good job. There's definitely parts where it's like, I don't think a teenager would say that, John. But on the whole, I think he did a really good job of just encapsulating what it's like to be in the head of a teenager. It is very much a book about living with cancer, so obviously be aware of that. But I really ended up enjoying it after not being sure whether or not I was going to be able to read it. So I would recommend this one if by some chance you have never read or watched it like me. And then I think the last book, I am going to check my Goodreads when I've talked about this one to make sure I'm not missing any ebooks or anything that I might have read. But I think the last book I read in February was The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. Another one that I've owned for a very long time and have been putting off. I think I ended up giving this one 3 stars in the end. This is a paranormal book, which I'm not usually a paranormal kind of person, but I already owned it, So I thought, we'll just give this a go. And it was good. I think if I'd have read this when I was like 13, 14, I'd have absolutely like ate it up. I think I'd have been quite obsessed with it. But I don't know. There was just something about it that, again, kind of similar to Girls of Paper and Fire, just fell a bit flat. It definitely had intriguing moments. There's definitely a lot going on. I can see why people absolutely love this. But for me, it was just a bit like, I don't know. It just didn't quite hit for me the same as it seems to do for everyone else. This has got really, really good reviews. I don't think it is my age, because I don't think this is written particularly young or anything like that. I think just my personal preference in books doesn't lean towards paranormal. So I think that probably didn't obviously help the situation. But it's not a bad book at all. If it sounds intriguing to you, I would definitely give it a go. It's basically about a group of teenagers who are trying to uncover this mystery, and along the way they uncover things that they never even knew needed to be uncovered. There's definitely a lot of intrigue in here. Again, I can see why people like it. It just isn't my personal taste. But that's not to say it's not a good book. It's just me. It's not the book, it's me. I've checked my Goodreads and they are all the books I read. I couldn't remember if I'd read any ebooks or listened to any audiobooks that I didn't own physical copies of, but I didn't. Because I am really trying, oh, loud building noise again. I am really trying to get through my physical TBR this year. So clearly I'm doing quite a good job. Oh my god, the building noise. I'm just going to have to wrap this up quickly. I'm so sorry if you can hear the drilling. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up down below if you did enjoy. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Hopefully with less building noise outside. Bye!